Welcome to A Tale of Two Synagogues. This episode is about two suburban congregations. One existed in Skokie and it was called Congregation Bnai Emunah. The other one still exists and it's called, at least it was called, Beth Hillel, and it's in Wilmette. And both are of the conservative practice affiliation. Bnai Emunah was conceived in 1953 in a parlor meeting in Lincolnwood. However, a decision was to build a synagogue in Skokie, the nearby suburb. Shown here is the building campus, still existing but no longer a synagogue. It is now owned by an Assyrian community center. It was originally called Skokie Valley Conservative Congregation, but in 1954 the name was changed to Bnai Emunah, not to be confused with a similar name, Skokie Valley Traditional, another congregation that was established 2 years later. Its original rabbi was Melvin Goldstein, who was given a 3-year contract. However, he decided to resign short of completing it. He said that he would not seek renewal of the contract, and the board decided to end a relationship even sooner. Ironically, during that time period, the congregation had grown to 600 families and a Hebrew school of 900 students. At that time, Goldstein went public with why he was glad to get out of his contract. He said that his authority on religious matters were being undermined, that there was a small ruling clique that overruled him too often. He said he was treated as if he was an office manager rather than a rabbi. Naturally, the synagogue officers had a different opinion of things. They said that the show was dynamically growing and that the rabbi did not give enough of his time to congregational matters. He was too often taking college courses at Northwestern. He previously had been assistant rabbi at Anshe Emet, further into the city. And as is quite often the case, the majority of members had no idea that there was a feud between the rabbi and the officers. He was replaced by Rabbi Harold Stern, who ended up being the spiritual leader of that congregation for a few decades. In August of 1961, another new congregation was started. This one was the previously mentioned Beth Hillel of Wilmette, which groundbreaking ceremonies took place at Frontage Road alongside the newly paved Edens Expressway. 7 years later, there was another groundbreaking ceremony for another sanctuary for the congregation at that same location. In August 1963, the congregation hired Rabbi William Frankel as their spiritual leader. However, 5 years later, in February of 1968, he was out of a job. Several of the members of the congregation were not happy about it, and they decided to start another new congregation where he would be placed in charge. It would be called the Conservative Congregation of North Shore. Eventually, the congregational name was changed to Am Yisrael Congregation. Rabbi Frankel stayed as its spiritual leader until he retired in 1984. As both congregations had similar service practices and were not too far apart from each other geographically, as well as for most of its members using motorized vehicles to get to synagogue services, it thus made sense in June of 2004 for Congregation Bnai Emunah to merge with Beth Hillel at the Wilmette location. Bnai Emunah could no longer afford to maintain such a large campus with a dwindling membership, and thus the shidduch occurred for two congregations with similar type of histories. It is now called Congregation Beth Hillel Bnai Emunah. And so it goes for another story about Chicago area synagogues. Bye for now, and hope to see you soon.